In what ways do you see mRNA and RNA kind of shaking things up, right, regulatory wise? And are there any sort of harmonization challenges that you're finding that this technology is posing, right? Are you finding that regulators are not aligned in certain areas for what they're asking for a vaccine and or a therapeutic product?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think, we can see, regulators, they are trying to harmonize, but still there's some areas, we see some difference. So one example is that we see the harmonization is that just use COVID-19 vaccine as an example. So ACMRO and the WHO, had a workshop on the global perspective on COVID-19 vaccine strain update, and also data requirement for the updated strain as well. So, and even with this, so when we are talking about the data requirement, we saw the difference. So for the new COVID-19 vaccine development, and EMA and other agencies, they accept the non-inferiority immunogenicity study, and with a head-to-head comparison with the active approved COVID-19 vaccine. But the FDA asked for the efficacy data on that. So,
okay. Yeah. Okay. So did that pose some operational challenges for you then? And how did you manage that, right, as a company? What sort of strategies did you have to go through to try to streamline, right, and make sure everybody got the data that they needed, but also encourage perhaps more alignment, right, on those fronts moving forward? Any tips, tricks, secret sauces you can share?
Yeah, from industry side, but when we say this, so I think internally we have some best practice, right, to navigate those challenges. So one is, as mentioned previously, early engagement with regulatory agencies and understand their different requirements and try to align our regulatory development strategy accordingly. So another one is that in terms of the data generation, we try to harmonize from our side as well. Where possible, we strive to generate the data to meet the most stringent requirements. So in that way, we can streamline downstream, when we're trying to get the approval across multiple jurisdictions. So.
Yeah. Okay. So strive for the gold standard, the most stringent, right, of regulations, because who's going to turn down more data, right? Yeah. So Melanie, I kind of have since you had brought up, raw material quality and analytics as being somewhat of a challenge or something that you're focused on today, I'm curious in terms of, as we consider the topic of harmonization and what is necessary, right, to meet regulatory approval across borders, right, different countries. Are you finding that those are areas where there is a lack of harmonization or clarity today? And are they causing any specific operational challenges for you as a CDMO or for your clients, right, in terms of navigating that?
Yeah, this is probably just my own personal, because I come out of the oligo world in CDER, right, where the starting materials for oligos are phosphoramidites, which are a nucleoside-based raw material, and they don't need to be manufactured under GMP principles. It's just understood you have a quality system that controls your starting materials. They're designated as starting materials, which makes them more critical than other things. But in the CBER world, this concept of the term GMP principles and the application of GMPs to the production of raw materials really kind of it challenges me because I come out of this world where GMPs apply to products and making API, making drug substance and DP, and they don't apply to chemicals that are made upstream. And so for me, and I will say the vendors that play in the raw material space, whether that's making NTPs or caps, which are become incorporated sequentially into the drug substance, or they're making enzymes or buffers, everyone markets research use only, GMP, GMP light. There's some flavor, right, of them. And what's for sure is you pay more for the ones that say GMP than you do the other ones.
Whatever it means. Yeah.
And so for me, I've had you know, a meeting request into the agency about this one topic to try and understand what is it across those suite of raw materials that really they care about. And right now, the feedback I'm getting is I care about, like, the agency cares about the ones that come from cell-based processes. So even though the NTPs are incorporated as a structural element, which in the CDER world means they're a starting material which they supposedly get higher scrutiny, based on my interaction, it's the enzymes that is more concerned about because of how they're manufactured and where they come from. And so I still don't know how I think about that altogether yet, but it's what I'm trying to do is elucidate where they have concerns, where they feel the risk is coming from, so that we can appropriately manage that risk, you know, through clinical development, so that we don't have to rethink these things once you get to the end and you're ready to get approval. So, you know, that's why, like, you know, for me as someone like, raw material quality, that's known. In GMP, this is how you treat vendors, but it's not a settled question. There's definitely nuance to this.
100%. And for those of you who tuned in for the raw material State of the Union last in September or February for our last Advancing RNA Live, this was a topic we dug into as well, right? So this is still understanding those principles, and arriving at even just a consensus within your own organization can be a lift, right, in terms, let alone across regulators in an industry.
Right.
Oriana, I saw you nodding your head. I'm going to ask a similar question for you, you know, in terms of some of the challenges or things that you're observing in terms of how to tell your RNA products full story, right? Are you finding that there's a lot of emphasis on your raw materials, on the quality of them, telling that GMP story of your raw materials? What has been, would you attribute to your latest regulatory successes, right? In terms of telling, what makes it an RNA story to the regulators?
I love that you're using the word story because my passion is writing. And I feel that what I've been trying to do in my career is just to be a translator of the science, right? So I'm trying to communicate what we're discovering, what these experts are finding to the agency in a way that they can clearly picture something, a process they have never seen, right? There's a lot of novelty in this process. There's a lot of things that we're building for the first time. So yes, in trying to put together that story to the agency, it's very important we are clear in what we are saying, and they're going to be looking for things that they've encountered before. So, you know, raw materials, when you talk about the origin of those materials, when you talk about cell origin, things of that nature, they're very familiar with the risks that those things could pose, right? If it's coming from certain sources. So they're going to dig into that because it's a new incorporation into a therapeutic. So I think that that's, you know, kind of in line with what we're seeing. So communicating what control strategies you have in place, where there's different steps in the process that lead to that product quality, I think is very important. So the conversation definitely goes both ways. We want to both, you know, address the agency's concerns and then also educate them on the sources of these materials, right? So when you say something is research use only, I feel that that's because it hasn't been used in a therapeutic before. So how can we demonstrate the value of incorporating it and what it really speaks to our patients' needs at the end to have this new thing incorporated. So I love trying to pin that in collaborating with the rest of my team. It's a very cross-functional effort to build those data packages, to speak with the SMEs and make sure that we're properly describing the mechanism of action, our delivery, all those potential therapeutic benefits from our preclinical data, all the way through the manufacturing and eventual quality release of the product. So all those elements are woven into this story, as you mentioned, narrative.
Yeah.
And so that we're communicating both to the agency and then having that transparency to the public as well. So the physicians and providers know what they're getting and what they're going to be giving to their patients.